Neil, the Republicans are turning today to foreign policy. Mitt Romney is giving a speech on the topic in Indianapolis. And then we have Condoleezza Rice leading the charge on this front at the convention in a speech tonight. Why, though, turn to foreign policy when a lot of Americans give the president pretty good marks on this front?
It's a risky gambit in a lot of ways for them, because not only does the president score high on the foreign policy front, way higher than George Bush did, for instance, in 2004, but it's also the case that this is a ticket, a true rarity in the Republican history, a ticket without any particular foreign policy on either part of it, either Romney or Paul Ryan. I think they mainly want to score some points, as you said, in going after what they see to be the failings or the shortcomings of the Obama foreign policy, particularly when it comes to Iran, Syria, what they think to be a lack of toughness on China. And I think when it comes to Condi Rice and John McCain, an attempt to use them to build up some of the credentials or add to the credibility that Romney needs to have on the foreign policy front. I think that's a lot of what they're going to do alongside sort of going after Obama.
One thing you mentioned in an article today is what the Republicans would like to do is sort of get voters to think of Obama in the same terms as Jimmy Carter. But there's a possible risk here, because it might just sort of remind voters that while people associate Carter's big failing with the failed attempt to rescue the hostages in Iran, it was a very different story for the president, who managed to hunt down and kill Osama bin Laden.
You're right. When it comes to the things that really make it into the popular imagination, when people think about foreign policy, they think about the bin Laden killing, they think about the drone attacks, they think about the fact that al-Qaeda has been weakened pretty dramatically, and I think that's widely well known. What people don't really understand are the more arcane things that the Republicans criticize Obama for instance, that he's not more robustly arming the Syrian opposition or pushing for sanctions in Iran. And they try to make this kind of Carter analogy, but it doesn't, without any particular dramatic moment to drive it home. I don't know whether it's likely to get a lot of traction as a result of that.
Now, it's not just the argument is tough to make also because we've seen some former Republican heavyweights, former secretaries of state, come out and actually praise Obama's handling of some situations. Why is it that we're not seeing a unified front from the Republicans in this area?
One of the things that's interesting to note is that Romney's own foreign policy kind of advisory group is this really large, spread out contingent of people who don't have necessarily a coherent core, and it's not really all that well known who would take over on the foreign policy front, or at all well known, if Romney were to win. And if you go back to H.W. Bush, for instance, the senior Bush, he had James Baker, Scowcroft, a whole variety of people that were around him that were ready to sort of assume the mantle. And I think among a lot of the sort of senior GOP people, James Baker being one of them, who have actually said fairly positive things, Colin Powell, about Obama's foreign policy, there's a little bit of an unrest in those circles about what Romney's foreign policy would look like. And that's, I think, it's funny because even Condi Rice, who tonight is going to be criticizing Obama, has also said positive things not that long ago about Obama's handling of counterterrorism in particular.
You mentioned Condi Rice, the former Secretary of State, coming into the spotlight tonight with her speech at the convention. Where is her place in the party now, and where is she likely to have a role in any Romney administration if he wins?
You know, that's a really good question. I mean, here's an extremely talented person. When, the rumor went around a month or so ago that she might be a vice presidential pick, it was never at all plausible that that would happen, but there was a huge spike in interest. She occupies a very strange position, though, within the Republican Party. She's certainly a part of it, but very little interest in getting into the political fray. That's just not sort of where she is, and my hunch would be that she wouldn't play a part in the next administration, considering she spent 8 years in the last administration and is now back in California. I think she has her eyes cast in different directions, but she's very highly regarded, at least within a certain segment of the Republican Party.
All right, Neil, thanks very much for that.